Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, FAA funding extension squeaks by House and Senate. Marine Corps aviation fatalities are 6 times those of the Navy. Department of Commerce upholds Boeing complaint against Bombardier. Hello, I'm Laura Hutson. It's September 29th, and this is Airborne Unlimited. Congress once again came right down to the wire, voting on a bill that would continue to authorize spending on the FAA at current levels for the next 6 months. The current continuing resolution expires Saturday. After being beaten back by Democrats earlier this week on an extension, the House passed a bill Thursday that does not have any spinoff of ATC included, but does include additional hurricane relief for people affected by Harvey, Irma, and Maria. It also included additional flood insurance and health care provisions that Democrats objected to in the earlier bill that was defeated on Monday. The vote was taken using a procedure that requires only a simple majority in the House, and no amendments were allowed on the floor. The measure passed 268 to 115, mostly along party lines. But the work is not done in the House. The U.S. Senate has also passed the bill, but removed the language dealing with flood insurance. The 2 versions must be identical before it can be sent to the President for his signature, so the House will need to reconvene and take another vote on the bill before the Saturday deadline. The Marine Corps is experiencing Class A aviation accidents, those involving loss of life or damage of over $1 million, that are as much as 670% higher than a Class A accident rate for the U.S. Navy. Data from the DoD indicates that in the last 6 years, 62 Marines have been fatally injured in aviation accidents, compared to just 10 for the Navy. A lot of factors are involved in that number. The Marine Corps often fly older aircraft, and since the Marine Corps is a largely ground troop-based service, their aircraft often carry more personnel than do the Navy's, and don't give the occupants an opportunity to eject should something go wrong. When it comes to fighter aircraft, the Marine opted 20 years ago to stay with their legacy FA-18 Hornets and wait for the F-35 JSF to become ready for combat. While the first squadron of the F-35Bs were declared war-ready in 2015, the FA-18s and Harrier jump jets have allegedly not aged well. The accident rate has led to a rolling safety stand-downs across all Marine aviation units this year. Some in Congress have said that insufficient training and readiness is at least partially to blame for the accident rate. After the break, Commerce Department upholds Boeing complaint against Bombardier.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonics Twinjet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.
Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross has announced the affirmative preliminary determination in the countervailing duty investigation of 100 to 150-seat large civil aircraft from Canada, finding that exporters of this merchandise received counteravailable subsidies of 219.63%. The Commerce Department will instruct U.S. Customs and Border Protection to collect cash deposits from importers of 100 to 150-seat large civil aircraft based on these preliminary rates. The U.S. values its relationship with Canada, but even our closest allies must play by the rules, says Secretary Ross. Although Canadian civil aircraft subject to this investigation have not yet been imported, an April 2016 press release announcing the sale of Canadian civil aircraft to Delta Airlines valued the order to be in excess of $5 billion. The petitioner is the Boeing company. In a statement, Bombardier said that it strongly disagrees with the decision by the Commerce Department. The U.S. government should reject Boeing's attempt to unfairly tilt the playing field in its favor and to impose an indirect tax on the flying public through unjustified import tariffs. It's Friday, and that means it's time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell to check in with his weekly Barnstorming commentary. The amount of errant info detailing what's right or wrong about ATC is staggering, but we want to note one thing, that the FAA has done a pretty darn good job of building an ATC system that is nonetheless the envy of the world. Here's this week's Barnstorming.
Thanks, Laura, and hi, folks. I'm going to do something unheard of, at least for me anyway, and I'm going to defend the FAA. I have been watching the ATC privatization arguments. I have watched the pro-privatization forces come up with statement after statement after statement that is alternately errant, alternately just complete hyperbole, and in many cases just complete and utter Bravo Sierra. We're being lied to. We're being lied to a lot, and we're being lied to by people who know that they're lying. Mind you, there is this craft in politics of twisting facts to make sure that they suit your arguments, and that there is a side to everything. But when the side that they're portraying is complete and utter malarkey, when it is based on errant supposition, when it is completely untrue, that's when things have just gotten completely out of control. And let me just take on one particular aspect of this. Modernization, as badly needed as it may be, is not privatization or vice versa. Modernization is desperately needed. The problem with modernization is that the FAA has been attempting it. It has a workable plan. It has done a reasonably good job heretofore. And the fact of the matter is the funding mechanism, the governmental mechanism, the control mechanisms, i.e. the people with the purse strings and the people playing the politics, have absolutely screwed up modernization. There has been a plan. It should have worked. It should have been a lot further along than it is by now, but it's not. And this very same people who are running around going, we got to fix this, we got to fix this, are the folks that broke it. Let me make something clear. Our ATC system is not perfect until you compare it to everybody else's throughout the world, privatized or non-privatized. It works well, it works better than it should because of the passion of great people within the community who know how important their work is. And finally, more than anything else, the FAA has had a good plan. It needs to be followed. It can be expanded, it can be modernized, it can be accelerated, it can be tweaked, it can be all these things. But it just needs to be given a chance. Being given a chance means just funding the dad-blasted thing and quit playing politics with something that's critical to the infrastructure of our entire transportation system and, more important, to the nation at large. That's it. Modernization is not privatization. Privatization is a boondoggle. And more important than anything else, modernization has been in the works for a long time, and it's being held back by the very same people who are decrying the lack of the same. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne and Aero-TV, and boy, I'm sick of the rhetoric. Aren't you? I'm Jim Campbell.
After these messages, General J.R. Jack Dailey honored with 2017 Wright Trophy.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
The Bristol Light Sport aircraft is what you are looking for. The Bristol is wider than a Cirrus, faster than a Skyhawk, offers more storage than a Husky, and comes standard with Garmin avionics. So what are you waiting for? Visit Bristol.com to find out how you can get into a Bristol today.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. The National Aeronautic Association announced that General J.R. Jack Dailey, USMC Director of the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum, has been selected as the recipient of the 2017 Wright Brothers Memorial Trophy for his courageous and dedicated service to his country and his commitment to sharing the history and technology of aviation and spaceflight with present and future generations. A DoD Inspector General report found that the DoD squandered at least $64.8 million on a program to develop an airplane for drug interdiction. The DOJ OIG audit report included information on the Global Discovery Program, an ATR 42-500 aircraft that was intended to be used for counter-aeronautics missions in Afghanistan. Boeing and Qatar Airways have announced an order for 2 747-8 freighters and 4 777-300ERs, valued at $2.16 billion at list prices. The orders were previously unidentified by Boeing. The airline also recently received the first of its 747-8 freighters. A group of Naval Air Systems Command engineers intend to solve a troubling and dangerous problem that has been experienced by pilots who fly all variants of the FA-18 Hornet airframe: decompression, sickness, or physiological events. So far, more than 500 PEs, including decompression, sickness, and hypoxia, have been documented. Rolls-Royce has reached agreement with the Air Force to continue to provide support for the propulsion systems for its fleet of C-130J aircraft through a 5-year mission care contract. The performance-based logistics contract covers Rolls-Royce AE2100 D3 engines, plus propellers and nacelles on USAF C-130J aircraft operating around the world. Rolls-Royce will provide engineering and sustainment support, repair, inventory management, and technical data. Well, that's it for today's trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. A New Hampshire State House committee is considering whether to repeal or replace airport fees imposed on aircraft registered in the state. The Ways and Means Committee in the State House is currently considering HB 124, which would repeal airport fees entirely. But the panel is now looking at ways to modify the bill so that fees can be reduced while staying revenue neutral, meaning taxes or fees would have to be raised elsewhere to offset the reduction from the airport fees. The state hopes to be able to attract more private aircraft, particularly business jets. GA already contributes some $100 million to the state's economy, but airplane registrations are declining. That is in part because where it costs $300,000 to base a mid-sized business jet in New Hampshire, it costs about $300 in nearby Massachusetts. The fee in New Hampshire is calculated using a mileage rate based on the value of the airplane. The bill under consideration proposes 4 registration fees based on the weight of the aircraft, ranging from $15,000 for the aircraft over 12,500 pounds to $100 for the airplanes under 4,000 pounds. Well, that's our program for today. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is streamed daily Monday through Friday with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and do check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Have a great weekend and see you Monday.